Hi there, it's Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com here with this week's episode of the Market Monday. This week we are going to be focusing on Theros Beyond Death and the trends surrounding the set. We are going to be looking at Pioneer and Standard for some data that was released for some tournaments on MTGO, and we're also going to be talking about the Theros Beyond pre-release. We'll have more Modern and Legacy data coming out later this week. I'll cover that on the second channel of the Rogue Market, so if you are not subscribed to that channel, definitely go check that channel out. I'm more focused on the financial aspect of Magic the Gathering on that second channel. However, let's start off with Theros Beyond Death pre-release. I have some conflicting information about Theros Beyond Death. Apparently this has been a lackluster pre-release, so much that it could be anywhere between 30 to 50% less attendance than the prior year, which is a bad sign for Magic the Gathering as a whole. I think we're still coming off a lull of Magic the Gathering. People have been not so happy about the direction of Magic the Gathering arena, and there have been, of course, a lot of problems in the pro scene and a lot of problems just in your local game stores. We had it was over 100 stores closed, so we had a net down of 100 stores in the North America region for WPN affiliated local game stores. Even in my local areas, I guess not quite local because there's no store except for mine in the 100-mile vicinity, but in the greater Salt Lake area, there have been quite a few closings for local game stores as well. So I think that we're seeing kind of the tail end of just a downward trend in 2019. Hopefully Wizards of the Coast can find their bearings and kick off 2020 with better results than what we saw with Theros Beyond pre-release. However, that's good news for the prices for Theros Beyond Death. This set should be able to hold its price a lot easier than sets of yesteryears like Dominaria, which was just opened like crazy, had a massive pre-release attendance. I mean, there's kind of a catch-22 for that. Of course, more players playing the set means more supply, but also means more demand. But typically, when a set like this isn't opened a lot during the pre-release and there is no huge indicator that the player base is 50% down, for example, this means that there is a shortage of supply versus demand. Maybe just people were excited about going to their pre-release. Maybe it's just another thing that people attended it on MTGO or at Magic Arena. There were some weather issues in the East Coast that could have affected it. All those can factor in to why Theros Beyond Death didn't have as good of a pre-release showing as past ones for winter sets. So that is my theory of where Theros Beyond Death prices. We're going to see it's going to be being able to hold this price. This is quite high for a set, being worth about $410 for the TCG mid for the entire set. And I think it's going to be able to hold its price a little bit longer than it should, just due to the lack of supply that's going to enter into the market. However, this could also cause people to buy the set like crazy, thinking that they can make a buck back on opening boxes, and then that could have the flood effect. We kind of saw that in Ravnica. Guilds of Ravnica is one of those sets, and Dominaria was also one of those sets that had such a positive EV for so long that booster boxes just flew off the shelf for people cracking open the booster boxes to try to make a buck on the singles. So keep in mind, there's a lot of factors that factor into the pricing of sets way beyond popularity, just good old supply and demand, and those working out. So anyway, we had a pretty decent Theros Beyond Death pre-release here at Gone Rogue Games. Unfortunately, our pre-release, we sold out, but our pre-release allotment was cut in half due to just some clerical errors between us and Wizards of the Coast. It's just a mess to deal with Wizards of the Coast. Terrible customer support. They canceled one of our pre-releases of the last two, and how they give your new allotment is based on your last two, and so we were cut in half. So we sold out, which was, nothing unexpected for us, but it was a pretty decent pre-release. The format seems to be, at least sealed, can stall. There was a lot of board game stalls. One of the pre-releases I did go 5-0, and I won with the boar, the 10-6 boar that forced everything to block. And literally every game, I'd actually had a perfect run at 10-0, 5-0, and literally every game was board got stalled, board got stalled, board got stalled, found the boar attacks in, all the other creatures hit for lethal every game. So I'm interested in how your pre-release attendance was, if you saw a lot of people there, what were kind of the strategies for the sealed, and if you saw any outliers in cards that performed well. All right, so if we take a look at the cards from Theros Beyond Death that are trending up, no surprise here with both Euro and Heliod. Both of those have found a deck in Standard, and Euro is also seeing a lot of play in Pioneer. We'll cover that in a second. Heliod, of course, has there are murmurings of being broken in Pioneer, but the first results have not shown that from Pioneer. And we also have the breakout card of Ashiok. This is one of the cards that I mentioned that I was seeing a lot of on MTG Arena. Definitely has seen homes in Grixis control, Esper control, and black-blue control. Even Tempo Shells have found that Ashiok is a pretty good card with the +1 of creating a 2/3 and then being able to get value out of then bouncing and making opponent discard cards. I mean, that's a pretty powerful effect for a 5-mana card that leaves back 2 loyalty and then can start pumping out 2/3s. All right, so Thassa continues to be kind of a weird one here. I did mention that the price was messed up. It was referencing a price of a promo rather than the regular, and so it's already corrected itself. It's gone back down to $16.50. People are still saying that Thassa is busted in various decks. I've yet to see the results. It has a weird curve where then exiles and then bounces back stuff. You really need to have it curve perfectly. We do have Euro Titan of Nature's Wrath, but you're leaving back yourself defenselessly. You have ramped up twice, but sometimes if you're going against an Embercleave deck, that's not going to be the best game plan to gain 6 life and have no blockers at that point. But Thassa is still on the radar for a card that could be potentially broken, but the results have not shown that so far. So we are still seeing some of these other commander cards holding strong, like the Nyxbloom Ancient and the Dryad of Elysian Grove. Both of these are mainly played the prices reflect the Commander. Commander did have a strong year of 2019. The biggest thing we're struggling with Commander is just it's too many Commander products have been released on us that the money has just been gone into Brawl decks and Commander decks, and Commander as a whole has, I think, lost value in 2019. The rest of the set is kind of quiet here, not a lot of movers. A lot of things, of course, going down. That is expected with a new set, but there haven't been too many breakout cards that have affected at least the other formats. Of course, there's still murmurs for many of these cards, like the Ox of Agonis could be sleepers. So this is a card that I'm particularly trying to break at the moment. It is pretty good in a deck that I have on MTG Arena, a Rakdos control deck. The Ox of Agonis is definitely a powerhouse in that deck. It fills back up your hand and it leaves back a 5/3 body, which is exactly what the deck wants. It's used as a finisher, one of the finishers in my deck, and almost like a creature list deck. I'll have to show you the deck list coming up. All right, that's enough talk about the Theros Beyond Death pre-release. Let's get to some results. So we had a standard challenge that happened. I believe these are invite onlys, and it will give you the deck list of all the 5-0s to the 0-5s. One of the big takeaways from this tournament is, I guess, Mono Black Control is the real deal. It's got favorable matchups versus food, Rakdos Sacrifice, and Knights. So any deck that can do well versus those is going to do well in the meta. It's also got decent matchups versus green-blue ramp, and where it does still struggle is the Fires of Inventions decks, but the sideboard can compensate for that. So basically the cards that are on your radar that I would look at possibly picking up, Yar, the First of Locthwain, has been in most of these deck lists. Yark's Fenlurker also looks like a pickup to me. M20, as the list actually differ from this one. A lot of them are using Timrit in this slot, and they're like doing a split of the two. But Yark's Fenlurker does what the Mono Black Devotion deck wants to do. It's going to cost your opponent a card, and if this card survives, you're going to be able to add that to Devotion. So an uncommon, let's check out the foil prices of the Yark's Fenlurker and see if there's... Ooh, that is definitely a good move. So this is a pickup, in my opinion. A 78-cent foil that could possibly hit potential in Pioneer, but is definitely going to be around for a while in Standard, I think is easily going to go up to $3 to $4. So Yark Fenlurker looks like a good pickup right now based upon the foil price for Mono Black Devotion, and actually even do like the regular cards at the 25 cents for regular uncommons. We've seen uncommons from Core 2020 go all the way up to $4, $5, $6. So I think this is a good pickup at the moment. The other cards that look interesting is Woe Strider. Woe Strider is going in multiple decks. This probably will go down slightly, but this could be a pickup if it ends up being more played in this deck, as well as the Rakdos Sacrifice deck. Woe Strider is incredibly strong because of the synergy with the Nightmare Shepherd, so it curves quite well. And then when you have Gary on turn 4, you sacrifice everything, and it comes back as copies. So Gary comes in, you sack it to the Woe Strider, it comes back in again with that converted mana cost, and then everything else can be sacrificed for value, like the Arx Fenlurker. And some synergies don't quite work like the Murderous Rider. It doesn't have an ETB effect, but there is enough ETBs in this that it is worthwhile. The other breakout card in this deck is Dread Presence. This is seeing play quite a bit in this. Like, Mono Black Devotions are split. A lot of them are playing 4 of the Dread Presence, and some of them are going for like another 4-drop, like the Knight, the uncommon Knight with the 4 Devotion, or Rankle in this slot. But Dread Presence has a better matchup versus like the Ramp matchups or the Knights matchup, as it can start pinging down various Knights. It can gain you life, make your opponent lose life, and also can draw you cards with the every time a swamp enters the battlefield. So Dread Presence, I think actually Dread Presence might hit a Sultai list with all the ramp cards we have right now. It actually seems like a pretty decent finisher. So keep your eye on this. Some are actually going the Bull Citadel route. Some are going heavier on it. There are a lot of ways to build this, but they are surrounding the Grey Merchant of Asphodel. So another interesting card is Drag to the Underworld. Seems like the real deal. A lot of decks have chosen, not even devotion-based decks, just any ones that are playing enough black, have chosen Drag to the Underworld as their backup removal after Murderous Rider. So I'm seeing a lot of copies in various decks for Drag to the Underworld, and it goes beyond just the devotion decks. There are a lot of decks that are playing black right now, like Esper, like just Dimir Control, Dimir Tempo. I've even seen some various enchantment, Orzhov enchantment decks. All of these are, running the Drag to Underworld, so this also could be a bit of a sleeper. The second place deck didn't add too much to the list, except we have another Woe Strider in here as a 4-of in the Rakdos Sacrifice deck, and the Careless Celebrant. So Careless Celebrant being an uncommon, only in one deck. Possibly you could start to see this in mono red decks as a go-to aggro card too. This is one that should be on your radar, especially let's see what the foil price is for the Careless Celebrant. Yeah, that actually looks like a decent pickup right now for $1. It's already proven itself. I think this is a card that could go up. Now, foils are weird with new sets. Sometimes it can be overvalued, sometimes they can be undervalued. This definitely does seem like one that's undervalued and should settle between $2-3 as the foil. Foil prices have been hurt a little bit. I mean, there's a little bit of a give and take here. Redemptions are less and less with every set on MTGO, so you're getting less foils that are being redeemed. However, Collector's Edition have an influx of foils that get added to the pool, and so foil uncommons have a high chance of being opened in the Collector's Edition packs, and that also adds to the supply of these. So keep that in mind. I do think this is undervalued at its price point. Other than that, this deck hasn't added too many changes to the list. We still have the Priest of Forgotten God with the Mayhem Devil combo, and the Witch's Oven and the Cat, so the Cauldron Familiar. But this one is running the Nightmare Shepherd as well, and the Woe Strider because of the synergies you can give that, and Drag the Underworld. So the first and second place deck are both running very similar cards with Woe Strider, Nightmare Shepherd, and Drag to the Underworld. I have seen some other black-red sacrifice decks use the black-red Elder Giant, is now Elder Titan, in this mix because it comes into play, sacrifices itself, and it's a pretty good card to get back late game. So keep that card on your radar. The next one is Rakdos Knights. I don't believe that there was any adjustment here, not even temples in the sideboard. I guess that's something we can take away too, is Temple of Malice plays a 4-of in the sacrifice deck. But this one is still good old Rakdos Knight, still at 4-1 with, it doesn't look like I can see any adjustments to this deck. You see that a lot week 1. People aren't willing to, you play the tried, tested, and true deck, and it's good to go. Simic Ramp. This seems to be a very, very popular strategy. This deck is very resilient to board wipes removal. It ramps incredibly quick with a double whammy of Risen Reef and the Euro Titans. of Nature's Wrath. This can also be a finisher you can get back. You're going to fill up your graveyard quite a bit with Cavalier of Thorns and other cards just going into the graveyard by chump blocking, and it does everything you want this deck to do right now, gaining 3 life. When it attacks or enters the battlefield, you draw a card and you can put a land into play. And so eventually, with the Cavalier of the Thorns, with the Hydroid Krasis, with the Euro, you're just going to gain so much card advantage. Nissa's going to gain card advantage, and you're going to finish it up with an Enraged Forerunners and the Finale of Devastations. It's not unheard of with this deck to get 10 mana, 12 mana incredibly quick. We're talking about turn 5, turn 6 with Nissa's, and going for a Finale of Devastation into an Enraged Forerunners. Your Abriel Grazers and your Risen Reefs are now threats. They're getting +10/+10 plus the +2/+2 from the Enraged Forerunners with Vigilance and Trample, attacking it for lethal incredibly quick with this deck. So I think this is going to be a popular strategy, and I don't know if there's a lot of takeaways from this. I still think Euro Titan of Nature's Wrath is actually undervalued. I think this is going to be a $40 mythic, so you haven't picked up your copies of this. It's only going to get more expensive at this point. This particular one is running a 1-of Thassa. Thassa as a 1-of, like I've mentioned in previous videos, or even 1-of in the sideboard, 1-of in the main, is not enough to push that price tag above the $15 mark. So I still think Thassa, based upon results so far, is a bit overrated. Next 4-1 deck was a deck that didn't really add anything to the mix. It's the exact same ramp list that's running Casualty of Wars and Death Sprout. I'd almost argue that this shell is better at getting it out than Hydro Krasis, Paradise Druid, Voracious Hydra. Nissa, just very streamlined deck. We've seen these ones before. It doesn't look like there was anything added in the sideboard. White Weenie's another one that gets a lot better with the addition of Theros, but it doesn't look like this one took anything away from Theros. It just, Raising Alarm, Unbreakable Formation, Heraldic Banner. You can go, if you have enough of these lifelink creatures, though, you can definitely go into the Heliod list, and I'm here to tell you that Heliod list is legit. You get some massive creatures out quick. Heliod's incredibly resilient. Anything like a Healer's Hawk can be a huge threat within just a few turns. And any token at that point, or any card, you can give it lifelink with Heliod. It's not hard to turn on. You're running other cards like the 2/3 flyer out of War of the Spark that can be legit threats quickly. Hushbringer too is amazing in that deck. Hushbringer actually matches up quite well versus many of these other decks with Enter the Battlefield effects and Sacrifice effects. This card actually looks like it could be poised to move. It still is out of Throne of Eldraine. Throne of Eldraine might get the focal point off of it, and prices will start to go up, especially with Oko being banned in another format. And mark my words, Once Upon a Time is going to get banned in Modern. The card is nuts in Modern. People are calling for Primeval Titan to be banned, and Tron is getting out of control. And one of the reasons is Once Upon a Time is too good for both of those decks. So if another card gets banned out of Throne of Eldraine, I think people are going to ignore Throne of Eldraine, and we're going to see cards like Hushbringer have the ability to go up in value. So keep your eye on this card as a potential hoser for various cards in both Pioneer and Standard. I mean, look at these. A bunch of these decks just have tons of Enter the Battlefield triggers out of these 4-1 and better finishes. So if you go down the list too, there's a lot more mono black. That was the big takeaway of this. This is very similar to the other list. There's another mono black, and we are seeing one of the cards that I am seeing a ton of on MTG Arena is both these blue-white controls and the Esper controls. It seems like blue-white is, once you're into the Mythic rating, apparently blue-white is the most played deck on MTG Arena Mythic, and one of the reasons is Dream Trawler seems to be the real deal. So this is another card that I would keep my eye on. So Dream Trawler being over $2.50 for a rare at the moment, it seems a little bit pricey with a card that with a set that's going to settle. But if this does keep settling down and Dream Trawler keeps putting up the numbers, this might be a card that you can make the move on. UI Control is in very good position right now with Teferis and cards like Absorb, Time Wipes, Gadix. Those are very, very good cards that are Gadwicks. Those are very good cards in the archetype, and I don't see it going anywhere. It does very well against the Fires of Invention decks and various aggro-based strategies and mid-range-based strategies, and it just really has, Dream Trawler gives it all the pieces. It was kind of missing that oomph, that card that could be the finisher, and this card is pretty nuts with various draw cards. One game against Dream Trawler, I'm trying to think of the card they cast that drew him a bunch of cards in one turn, but this guy got up to it was like a 12 power and then tacked in for lethal at that point. And giving it hexproof is pretty good. Attacking just once draws you a card. Flying Lifelink does everything that you want it to do in the format. And, great blocker, great attacker. Reminds me of the Dragon Lord Ojutai back in the day. In fact, I might even give this the nod to Dragon Lord Ojutai with the ability for this to just lethal on one turn. So keep your eye on the Dream Trawler. Speaking of which, the Atris Oracle of Half-Truths I have been seeing a lot of, but again, this is a card that can be quite awkward. It needs to find a home. I like to see more numbers before I move on this card. The price is quite low to it though, but I have been seeing this card quite a bit. Other than this, the Ashiok Nightmare Muse is in this Esper list, so this is a Hero Precinct 1, and I have seen Ashiok in various Grixis decks, in various Fires of Invention decks. It's been everywhere, so I think the Ashiok has been posting up the numbers. We'll have to wait and see if it is going to be the real deal. We have another Esper Hero, same sort of shell with the swapping the numbers of 4 and 3 to 4 and 2, and Ashiok still in here to Fairy. Golgari Adventure doesn't look like it added anything to the list, and now we're kind of getting in after this to decks that didn't perform quite as well. One other takeaway I did want to say from this is the Phoenix of Ash is a very interesting card. The Escape 3 for 4 mana and coming back as a 3/3 seems like a pretty reasonable cost as a finisher, as top-end finisher for mono-red strategies, as you need that last bit of oomph. The problem with this card is there are tons of cards that are competing for this slot, and there might just be better things. At what point is Experimental Frenzy just going to be more powerful than a Phoenix of Ash? So I'm not sure I'm sold on this card quite yet. Alrighty, so let's go on to the Pioneer results. Now the Pioneer results are pretty much lackluster here. So the one that won was Golgari Soulflare. I did not see any new cards that were in the 75. If someone sees one that I skipped over, feel free to let me know. The Azorius Spirits also did not see anything new in the 75. If we go down to the next one with Black Red, I didn't see anything new in the 75. And then in the Chunky Red, also did not see anything new in the 75. So again, this was a tournament where people already had decks built. They already knew what they were going to play, and it's going to take a bit for new cards to break in. Didn't see anything in the mono green ramp, and we did, though, get to the first one of the 4-1, which is for Thirst for Meaning. So Thirst for Meaning, I think, is going to be a hit. The thing is, this card is a common. It's also already available in the promo. So it's in the promo pack, so those are like the F&M. The foil, though, is quite cheap for it. The promo is quite cheap for it. This card has existed before in the form of the it's a popper card, the Thirst for Knowledge, I think is what it's called. Yeah, so Thirst for Knowledge. And it's bonkers card. I know artifacts are a lot easier to splash in decks, especially for blue, than enchantments, but draw 3 cards and discard 2 cards unless you discard enchantment. Many decks are going to benefit from this, especially a card called Dig Through Time. This is putting 3 cards into your graveyard. So you're going to pitch Thirst for Meaning and 2 other cards at instant speed, which is huge, and have 3 ammo base, reduce the cost of dig by time by 3. Same thing by Treasure Cruise. In Standard, I'm expecting that Phoenix decks are going to love this, as well as Ox decks. So I'm thinking like an Ox/Phoenix deck is now going to be viable with Thirst for Meaning. It's also going to get the added benefit off of drawing cards on your opponent's turn. There are a couple cards that actually benefit off of that, or drawing more than a particular number of cards per turn. So I think this card is actually quite powerful for Standard. We haven't had cards like this for a while. I mean, like, Thirst for Knowledge was a long time ago. Wasn't it Mirrodin? Was when it was printed, and then it's been printed in Commander sets. And they've kind of avoided cards like this because of the power level. So we're seeing that the Wizards is toying with these draw spells, which is rightfully so, because green decks have been pretty much overpowered in Standard for quite a bit because they push the power of creatures. They probably have to push the powers back of spells. So I'm liking this Thirst for Meaning as possibly a pickup for foil and the promo version, because I think that this is going to be highly played in both Pioneer, and it's going to be played in Standard. Is the best we have for that slot at the moment. Instant speed is critical for this, and there will be a lot of times where just pitching enchantment does make sense in enchantment based decks. Possibly this could see play in the Dance of Mance type strategies. All right, so that was the first one that we see a 4 of play here, and you notice that it is right on line with that Dig Through Time. It's exactly what they want with the Thirst for Meaning Dig Through Time. Okay, so I didn't see anything else in the list for this particular deck. That is, though, a huge, in my opinion, buff for the UI control with Dig Through Time. If we go down into this Jeskai Ascendancy one, same thing. We only see the Underworld Breach, but this is actually a good sign for Underworld Breach. So people are talking about how Underworld Breach probably wasn't even good enough for Modern, but where it really gets broken is Vintage and Legacy. There have already been murmurings this card will have to be restricted in Vintage and banned in Legacy because of how broken it gets with particular cards, especially particular cards that generate mana. So the good news is it's being strong enough to do a 4-1 finish in Jeskai Ascendancy probably means this is the real deal and we'll see play also in Modern. At that point, though, the price is still pretty high for a rare, above the $4 mark, which usually $3 to $4 for new set. New card out of a set is where, what do you expect out of it? To go up to $6, at that point, you've just paid for fees after shipping and fees and investing at the card. However, if this continues to put up these numbers, we could see that $10 to $12 card if it sees enough decks or it breaks a deck. If it does break a deck, though, then it's on the chopping block. So that's my advice with Underworld Breach. This is very interesting that it is seeing play in the Jeskai Ascendancy deck, and I'll have to give it a go and see how broken it actually is in that deck. It actually does seem pretty decent, as you're going to have tons of cards in your graveyard. What is it, replacing Treasure Cruise in this? No, I guess this list is going through Dig Through Time over Treasure Cruise, but it's replacing some of the other. I'll have to see the other list of what draw spells it's replacing. If we go over, same thing out of the sideboard, doesn't look like there's anything interesting here. We have a black-green. Basically, this is just mono-green ramp, or mono-green Stompy with Rotting Regisar. Doesn't look like anything made it into the list, and same thing with this. This is the exact same deck, same thing, nothing made it into the list. And we come over to this particular blue-white control, and it is not running the combo of the Dig Through Time and the Thirst, which I think is where a lot of them are going to move towards in the future. And again, we'll see more results from cards. This is funny that this one's running Summary's Dismissal. I wonder if Ashiok's is going to be better than Summary's Dismissal or not. The Ashiok's Erasure, I think is what it's called. Other than that, though, we start to get not a lot of interesting numbers here with cards that are coming out of the Theros Beyond Death. If anyone saw anything that I missed, definitely in the comment section below, let us know. Oh yeah, never mind. There was one more major player. These Niv-Mizzet Reborn decks are the real deal. They're putting up massive numbers. They actually have been winning a lot of tournaments. I did see one tournament where Niv-Mizzet was number 1, number 3, 4, and 5. So that means that this deck can compete against the meta, and it seems like Euro Titan of Nature's Wrath has replaced things like either Risen Reef I've seen in lists, or I've seen the Energy Dude. Why can't I think of the card that got banned last time around? The 3/2 Rogue generates 2 energy, draw a card. So the Euro the Titan of Nature's Wrath is, I guess, better in this slot than the other cards that have been in this 3-drop blue-green slot. So this seeing a lot of play in both Standard and Pioneer, and most likely in Modern, is going to make me think that Euro Titan of Nature's Wrath is going to be the clear winner out of this set. I think blue-green is just a great pairing in all of those formats. Here's another one. Here's another Niv-Mizzet that's running 2 of them. And here's another one that's running 4 of them. So we had a bunch of 3/2 finishes of running the Niv-Mizzet, all of them running the Euro in various numbers, and it seems to be working out well for them. So anyway, that's all I have for this week's episode. I want to actually finish this with a little bit of a topic I'll be talking more about on my Rogue Market channel, which is, we always do a thing called Pirates Plundered Pickups, which is a kind of a shout out to my Patreon. One of the things we do over Patreon is I allow people to buy products at distributor price if they sign up for my Patreon. It's a way of kind of, you scratch my back, I scratch your back. And there are a lot of good opportunities right now that I think won't last long. And one is Throne of Eldraine Brawl decks, and the other is Commander 2019. I continue to look over these numbers, and these decks are very, very good at value. And I think that we've I think that these aren't going to be purchased. Now we're into Theros. When Ikoria comes out, they're going to have other commander decks. But if you actually look over these lists, there are some good cards that are hidden in the Brawl decks. First of all, I think all the Brawl commanders are going to they're going to last the test of time. They're very popular commanders according to EDH Rec. But if you look through here, just like a lot of the uncommon slots, a lot of even the common slots, and especially a lot of the rare slots, and keep in mind that every one of these has their fail-safe of hallowed fountains. So if you can get a Brawl, like right now I can get a Brawl display, I can get it to you for $100 is about the cost of the distributor cost plus whatever it takes to ship it. And that brings it down as you get 8 decks. And so right there you can get the cost down if you have a $10 land in it, almost down to breaking even, and everything after that. If you take the land and the Arcane Signet, you've broken even on every deck, and everything else is a throw-in. And a lot of these ones, it's just like cards that I think are going to last the test of time, like Incubation Druids in this one, for example. Time Wipe is seeing a ton of play. Circuitous Route is going to be a $1 or $2 card long term, 2 to 3 years down the road, because it's just as strong as the other ones in this slot. And these all look like they're packed full of. It's funny how it took Brawl to actually make good decks. Like, commander decks have been quite lackluster in the past few years, and Brawl just is above and beyond better than the commander decks. Of course, you get more cards out of commander, but the cost of commander is significantly higher than Brawl. If you go over to the Knights deck as well, we do have the Shockland, we do have the Arcane Signet, and everything after that is just gravy. We do have the Knight of Ebon Legion, which is seeing a ton of play. So right there, this is a good, profitable deck for the Knight deck. If we go over to the Savage Hunter, this is where it really shines, because you get the Corvald, which is a very, very heavily played card in EDH, in Pioneer, and in Standard at the moment. And you also get some cards that I think are going to be good long term, like the Rhythm of the Wild uncommon, like the Dreadhorde Invasion, and plenty of other Stomping Grounds. It's a very, very popular land in every format, and a lot of good uncommons and commons that I think we'll see play throughout the time. There's Evolution Sage, Judas in here. These are Priests of Forgotten Gods, very playable cards in these decks. And last but not least, the Alela Artful Provocateur has the Smothering Tithe in it, as well as the Watery Grave and the Arcane Signet, so you get your money back there. So if you're in the market for sealed product, this is one of my top buys. I give a full overview over at the Rogue Market. We'll do this probably Tuesday. Tomorrow I'll do an overview of the products that I would buy. And Commander, same thing with Commander. Commander is still pretty decent with the value that it has in it. I think that this one is starting to go up just because no one cared about this set, and so no one purchased it. So you have cards like Thran Dynamo that are also already leveling off and starting to go up, and even things like Temp with Discovery, which is an evergreen card in Commander. You're in green, you usually play it, especially in green-black, because it's the easiest way to get some broken combos with the Temp Discovery to get the Urborg Tomb Yawgmoth Cobble Coffers combo. And still down this list, I think there will be a lot of these cards that are going to have the ability to rebound over time. And every one of these decks does seem to have, some good cards. Dockside Distortionist pays for the deck here. We also have some good cards like Ghostly Prisons that get reprinted and then go right back up. Same thing with this Primal Genesis deck. It is kind of the lackluster one out of them, but it still does have some cards that I think are gonna be good over the long period. Merciless Rage, same thing. So anyway, last but not least, we'll just pull up the Dawnglare value of the Commander decks. So Commander 2019 is, holding strong. This is at TCG market price. You get Primal Genesis can sell for 30, Mystic and Intellect for 40, Merciless Rage for 74, Faceless Menace for 40. I think those are all good. If we look at the Brawl, did I find Brawl in here? I thought the Brawl decks too are all reasonable value at market price. If you can get these at, 8 divided by what does that make them? $12.50 a piece is the cost of them, and so you can tick up a few bucks here and there with selling the contents of Brawl or just keeping them sealed. I think both of these will be sealed product that will have a better chance of going up than most sealed product long term. Anyway, that is my Rogue Market, kind of a long one this time. I'm going to continue this discussion over at the Rogue Market channel for the Pirate Plunder picks of sealed product that I would buy. Highly suggest that if you enjoy this content and you want to support me, and I'll scratch your back if you scratch my back, check out the Patreon. It keeps the channel going. It allows us to continue to innovate, bring on other content creators, bring on more. Next thing we're looking at is, man, our lighting is terrible here. We're looking at doing product reviews on the third channel, Gone Rogue Games, but I definitely need to get a good setup with like lighting and a better camera and stuff like that. So all the money that goes from the Patreon goes directly into that, and it's just a good way for you to get cheap products, a good way for me to have a residual income monthly, and I'll have to worry about YouTube ad revenue or losing sponsorships and whatnot, and it's just a win-win all around. So go check that out. Kevin with Rogue Deck Builder here with the Market Monday. Thanks for watching.